So, good morning, everyone. And today we'll do a meditation on the 4 attributes of true dukkha that we looked at on Monday's class. And so these are impermanence and unsatisfactoriness and being unclean or unattractive, not totally pure and perfect, and then being free of self, without self. So again, meditating on these 4 attributes is to counteract 4 distorted conceptions that we have about true dukkha. And we can use as an example our own aggregates, our own body and mind. So that's what we'll do in the meditation. We'll think about our own body and mind and think about these 4 attributes and see if we can have a better understanding of them and perhaps recognize how we actually have the opposite ideas to these 4 attributes. So let's start with a few minutes of settling down, getting into a good frame of mind for doing the meditation. So make sure that you're sitting comfortably. Try to keep your back straight, but allow the rest of your body to relax and be as free of tension as possible. And let your breathing flow in and out in a natural rhythm without controlling it in any way. Just allow your breath to flow naturally. And you can be aware of the breath flowing in and out for a few moments to help your mind settle down in the present, letting go of thoughts of the past or the future or anything else, so that you can just focus your mind, your attention on the meditation that we're doing. And then generate a positive, altruistic motivation for doing the meditation, wishing that you will gain more understanding and knowledge and experience that will help your mind develop positive qualities with which you can be more beneficial to others, other people, other beings. And if you are comfortable with the idea of attaining enlightenment, becoming a Buddha, to help all living beings in the best possible way, you can bring in that as well. So we've been talking about dukkha, sometimes translated as suffering or unsatisfactoriness. And it doesn't only refer to experiences like painful feelings in our body and mind, but it also includes our very body and mind, our aggregates, and even things in the environment that arise due to karma and delusions or mental afflictions. But for now, let's let's focus on our own body and mind, this set of aggregates that is what we consider to be me and mine and who I am. So this is a type of true dukkha, or unsatisfactoriness, because it arises from karma and afflictions. It doesn't come about from pure and perfect causes and conditions, but from imperfect ones. And so it's in the nature of dukkha, suffering, unsatisfactoriness. But that's usually not what we think when we look at our body or think about our body and our mind. So true dukkha is said to have 4 characteristics or 4 attributes. So let's just contemplate these so we can get a better understanding of them. The first one is impermanence. And that has 2 aspects. There's coarse or gross impermanence, referring to the changes that we can see as our body gets old, and eventually a body will die. It doesn't last forever. So there's like obvious changes that we can see. But there's also subtle impermanence, which refers to the changes taking place each and every moment, every tiny fraction of time. So constantly, all the time, our body is changing and our mind is changing. They don't remain the same from one moment to the next. And we contemplate this so that we can counteract the tendency to think of our body and mind as permanent and unchanging, and things that will always be there just the way they are now. So spend some time contemplating this point of impermanence and see if you can understand it in relation to your own body and mind. And the second attribute of our aggregates is unsatisfactoriness. And we meditate on this to counteract the tendency to think of our body and mind as pleasurable, as the source of enjoyment and pleasure, really wonderful. And yes, to a certain extent, yes, we do experience pleasure and happiness with our body and mind. But we tend to overlook the unpleasant aspects of our body and mind, the painful or unsatisfactory aspects of our body and mind. So having a body means we sometimes get sick, we have aches and pains, we can suffer from being too hot or too cold, and so other kinds of physical problems that we have with our body. And then with our mind, there are problems as well. We sometimes feel exhausted or anxious or unhappy, depressed, dissatisfied. There's a whole long list of different kinds of mental or emotional experiences that are unpleasant, that are painful. So bring to mind some of these experiences you yourself have had, and try to see that there probably isn't a day that goes by that we don't have some kind of problems with our body or with our mind or with both. And the second attribute of unsatisfactoriness can also help us overcome the third distorted view, which is mainly regarding our body, thinking of our body as attractive and pure and clean. And so this view happens because we don't really look carefully at the body and what it's made of, the different parts of the body. And so, in fact, the antidote to seeing the body as attractive and pure and clean is to mentally take the body apart and think of the different substances that make it up. So just spend some time contemplating that, thinking about what the body is made of. There's the more coarse parts of the body we can see, like skin, and underneath the skin we know there's flesh, there's bones, there's different organs, stomach, intestines, heart, brain, there's muscles, blood vessels, blood, and so on. So just think about what your body is actually made of, especially what lies inside, underneath the skin. And just check how those objects appear to you. Do they really appear as wonderful and pure, clean, attractive? You can also go down to the finer levels, the more subtle levels of what the body's made of, like the cells, molecules, atoms. And just see if you can find anything within the body that is really wonderful, attractive, pure, and clean. So the purpose of this kind of contemplation is not to generate aversion, disgust, or hatred towards our body and towards our mind. That's going to the other extreme, from attachment and unrealistic attitudes about the body and mind. So we need to remember we're very fortunate to have this body and mind, especially a human one, because with it we can do many beneficial things for others. We can learn the Dharma, develop wisdom and other positive qualities, follow the spiritual path if that's what we would like to do. So we don't want to disparage or have negative attitudes towards the body, but instead just realize it's not as great as we sometimes think, so that we don't have attachment to it and unrealistic expectations of it. And then the the last two of the attributes are empty and selfless. And both of these are meditated on in order to counteract the tendency to feel there's a self, a real I, self, me, somewhere within our body and mind. There's different levels of the sense of self. One is that there's a self that's like a controller or a boss, something that's in charge of our body and mind, making decisions and controlling our body and our mind and our life. So if we watch carefully, we can probably notice this sense of a self somewhere within our body and mind. And if we do have this sense of self, which we probably do, then we need to look at it more carefully, more closely, and ask ourselves, what is this self? Is it really something that exists? Something I can find, something I can point to within my body and mind as being that self, that I? So just spend a few moments contemplating that. See if you can recognize that sense of self. And if you can, try to pinpoint exactly what it is, where it is, how does it exist. Okay, so each of these four attributes, as you can see, is quite deep, and we could spend an entire meditative session contemplating each of them. So this was just a preliminary look at the four attributes and how we can contemplate them with regard to our body and mind. So I encourage you on your own to spend more time, as much time as you can, to contemplate each of these and try to deepen your understanding of them. So let's just take a few moments to mentally dedicate the merit, the positive energy of doing this meditation. We started with a good motivation, an altruistic motivation. So let's end by sharing the positive energy we've created with all other beings, people and other beings, that it will bring them peace, happiness, freedom from suffering and the causes of suffering, and help them develop their potential, higher states of mind, up to full enlightenment.